I think the big moment for me was when I came in contact with Glenn Hall, who at the time was a professional world tour surfer, and he was on tour and overseas pretty much most of the year surfing. And when he was home, I got in contact with him one time and we ended up doing some filming together, and he was a really good asset for me to have. He was always bringing me on board and introducing me to new people, and I'm very thankful to have come in contact with him. I remember I was only 14 at this stage, so it was 2014. I was like tiny, just a frothing grom, like the long blonde hair, looked like a little girl to be honest. And yeah, so it was 2014. I was still in school, and I remember getting a phone call from Glenn asking me to come to Hawaii with him for 6 weeks with him and his team to film and create content for them. And I think from that moment on, I was like, okay, this is serious. This isn't just a little hobby that I'm going to do after school and on the weekends. This is going to be a proper career for me. And yeah, I think sitting on the beach in Hawaii, shoulder to shoulder with some of the best content creators in the surfing world by my side, and filming some of the best surfers in the world, like Julian Wilson and Kelly Slater and like the John Florences, everyone's right in front of you. That was huge. And yeah, that moment from then on, I was like, yeah, this is me. This is what I want to do. I use a Lumix GH5, so I've been on the Lumix range for a few years now. I had the Lumix GH4 and I've shifted to the GH5 now, and it's a tiny little micro four thirds camera, but for what I'm doing, it's seriously amazing. You get your bang for your buck, and it's an absolute workhorse. I've been using Lumix since about 2016 on the GH4 and then shifted to the GH5, and I'm just about to get my hands on the GH6 if I can. So it's an amazing range, and I feel like for cost wise, it's seriously unbelievable. I've shot a whole web series on it, and then that web series got adapted for TV. So that on this little $2,500 camera has been broadcasted all over Australia on free-to-air TV. So yeah, I feel like it is very, what would you call it, underestimated. It's very subtle, and that's what I like about it. I don't like rocking up with all this equipment and thinking that I'm this big yahoo with all this gear. I rock up with the smallest equipment and fly under the radar, and that's kind of how I like to roll. Straight out of school, I was approached by Kyle and Kara, who were on the block a few years back and are now kind of influencers in the home renovation and build genre. So they've been creating content for a few years now, and they approached me to come on board with them, basically full-time straight out of school when I was 17, to create their build series called Blue Lagoon Build, where they would build their dream home from scratch. And I'd never been on a building site at that time, and it was a real big eye-opener for me to take on a project that I had no idea about. And of course I said yes. I jumped on board and basically was filming on a building site for, what was it, 8 to 9 months, a few times a week, and then editing a web series that would launch for a consecutive 9 weeks, like one episode a week. And that was on YouTube, so that was a YouTube series, and that was seriously chaotic. I don't think I realized how much work was going to be involved in that, and it was a massive learning curve for me. I was doing 96 to 100-hour weeks getting that series live, and it was wild, and I learned so many things, and I feel like it was really good for me to jump into that because it made me realize that it's not all pretty on behind the scenes. It's pretty chaotic and it can get pretty hectic. So that was great, and the YouTube series went live and it went really well, and everyone was happy with what we created. And then eventually the Nine Network approached us to air that series and on TV. So basically that meant I jumped back into the editing bay for a good 15 weeks or 10 to 15 weeks to edit this web series down into a 2-part television series to air on TV. And I was like 20 at this point, or 19 or 20, and I'd never done anything TV before. I'd shot some little TV Cs before, but they were pretty straightforward and nothing like this was going to be. So it was huge, and I feel like that was a massive achievement for me, and still to this day that's a pretty big achievement, and I'm super stoked that happened.